All right, with me right now is the Reverend Jesse Jackson. You've heard, obviously, Reverend, and welcome to you. The Congressional Black Caucus, others, urging restraint, urging peace, but they're frustrated. They're angry. If you had to advise protesters who might be coming out tonight, what would you tell them?
You know, I would urge us to look at the context of this rebellion. These public executions is a lot to take. It's Walter Scott. It's Baton Rouge. It's in the case of Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's fueling this, and we seem to live
in some cases. If he had a gun, and he brandished the gun, we don't know. Would that make a difference to you?
Well, here in the case of Tulsa, at least they released the tape very quickly.
No, you're right about that one.
In the case of Chicago, they delayed the tape 14 months, and that was the fact in rebellion. In the case of Charlotte, it's a suspicion that they're covering something up. And so you have this cloud of public kind of legal lynchings, and that is deeply emotional, and people reacting with their gut, because it's one thing for a neighbor and neighbor to have a shootout, but when the ultimate authority with the gun and the badge has the authority to be the arresting officer, the profiler, and the executioner, that's a lot to take.
Even when the officer is black.
Whatever the colored officer may be, no one has the right to kill anybody.
So, but are you outraged as well?
And if in fact you in the military, and somebody put their hands and said don't shoot, and you shot in the military, you'll be prosecuted. You can't do even in the Army.
No, I can definitely understand your anger, but I don't see the same anger, maybe not by you, but by others, about the hundreds of kids, black kids killed in Chicago, and black-on-black crime. That dwarfs what we're seeing here.
Well, if it's white on white, it's Sandy Hook, or if it's Orlando, it doesn't matter who the killing is.
What does the black-on-black crime bother you?
But you know what?
That's out of control.
What concerns me there is that we've ignored the Kerner report for too long, which says we're growing increasingly apart, more alienation, and the impact of suffering and poverty.
So what happens in Chicago annoys you?
In Chicago, you have 8 communities with 25% unemployment and 40% on the levels of poverty, guns in, drugs in, jobs out. That is a disaster, and there's been no...
And that's all black-on-black crime.
Well, it doesn't matter the color. Ultimately, is that there needs to be a policy conference on violence, causes, and cures, and racial disparities, which are substantial and very open, and suffering, as well as a plan for reconstruction. We cannot keep limping along. You know, I watch the football players speak out, Cam and others on the television about what's happening in Charlotte. On the football field, the reason why black and white engage in combat and can survive it and shake hands, the playing field, the rules are public, the goals are clear, the referees are fair. But off the field, the rules are not fair, and they're inconsistent. And everybody kind of knows it, but we're doing a lot of talk about it lately, but not much. And these
Do you think in protesting, though, Reverend, when people, instead of exercising their right to freely protest, are looting stores and stealing things? There were dozens of cases of that last night. Is that right?
No, but one of the biggest looter last week was the bank. That had the 5,300 people. Well, not a big looting.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Well, I know you're not talking about that, but that's looting.
Some take it too far. Is that right?
Well, is the banks taking that too far? No one has been indicted.
Well, believe me, they're going into that. I'm going to deal with it.
Well,
let me ask you this. Don't switch subjects, Reverend.
But no one.
No, I respect you. I'm just saying to you, do you find that what happened last night got out of control when so many started attacking structures, attacking police vehicles, breaking into stores, many of them black-owned businesses? Is that fair?
Well, it's not fun. Let me put it this way. When people, Dr. King said riots are the voices of the unheard. And when you get that bounce, shake, mark, insufficient funds, and never get justice and fairness, you have these rebellions. And then you're looking at a rebellion, and there needs to be, we need to address the source of the rebellion, not just the actions.
But I think, in all respect, Reverend, you are really making a slap at all poor people, all poor African Americans who don't do this, who don't respond like this. And
people are responding in very different ways. For some people, it's
but you're saying that because you're poor, you're disadvantaged, or the white man has somehow deliberately disadvantaged you, you do this sort of thing, when in other locales you don't do that. So that's paying them no heed.
The reason why I say it's not just race, I don't know if it was black, white in Sandy Hook, in Orlando, for example, we've become much too violent as a society. We've become much too violent, period. But then there are layers of, there's intra-violent related between white on white, black on black, brown on brown. But then when the police literally, and the camera becomes the conduit of justice, shoot some of their hands up in the air, again, that's wrong. And those who do it should face the full weight of quick justice.
But you seem to be saying that all 680 cases that we've seen in the past year and a half where blacks were shot by police were all that way. Were there not some that were legitimate, where a gun was involved? In the case of Keith Lamont Scott.
Well, shooting people in the back is not legitimate. And the case of
did that happen? Careful, because you always say don't generalize. If that happened 680 times, you are absolutely right. It did not. But let me ask you, in the case of Keith Lamont Scott, if he had a gun, and you're quite right, we don't know for sure. North Carolina is an open carry state that allows it. Are you saying that people shouldn't be carrying guns around in that case? It's only a provocative
act? Of course, there's easy access to guns. I think we should ban assault weapons, which have background checks. Open and carry guns is very risky and very, very dangerous and very wrong, I would say. But when you look at Walter Scott, shot 6 times, and the police lied, those with him lied, and you come right back, Eric Garner choked to death, and the police looked on and lied.
Do you think that's common practice?
Well, we see it one way every day.
Well, we also see a lot of cops getting shot. Do you have the same rage about that?
You don't see a lot of cops getting shot, but they shouldn't get shot. But I submit to you that let's go a step further. We need to review the Kerner Commission report on the alienation and suppression is running its toll on people.